Hello everybody, welcome back to the Cosmic Clinique podcast. This is episode 4. Now, I'm really working towards being consistent with this. Consistency, I've been practicing consistency and discipline since last year when my whole world fell apart and I was like, you know what? I have to do something different. And if I want to change my life, I'm going to have to be consistent. Anyways, this is only episode 4, but this is still huge for me. I've practiced consistency in various avenues of my life. It's working out. And I really want to be consistent with this podcast. So it means a lot to me that you're here. Thank you. I guess I want to remind you of my name. My name's Christelle and I'm an astrologer, and I focus predominantly on really just nurturing the minds that are neurodivergent, that are highly sensitive, highly intuitive. And I'm literally recording this in my living room. My son, who is 4, is sleeping upstairs, and I have found the space to just express and share and record this podcast, this episode. But before we begin on the actual topic, I just want to say a couple of things. That this podcast is all about being as transparent as I can relative to my experience being neurodivergent, to share astrological divine timing and occurrences, and to just keep you abreast with what's going on with the planetary alignments so that we can best utilize the energy, especially as we navigate through this very rigid, logical world. How can we best tap into the planetary energies to be the best that we can be in everything that we do? As neurodivergent, highly sensitive, highly intuitive minds. Now, I kind of digress. I didn't want to say all of this, but I think it all matters. But yeah, I want to say something though. I want to say something else, like I always want to say before we kind of dive into the particular topic at hand, that you don't need to take notes during this episode. You don't need to extract something actionable from every sentence that I share here. And you don't need to turn it into productivity. Okay? If anything, I want you I would rather you slow down while you just listen. You let your shoulders soften and your breathing settle a little. Just allow yourself to kind of like settle down and settle in. And if something resonates, if anything resonates in this episode, it will stay with you. This episode isn't about urgency. It's literally about regulation. So let's do that as we hone out of the world and hone into this episode. So it is about this episode. It's kind of a random one, but I wanted to talk about the void after launching a project or a business and becoming the person who can sustain it. And the reason why that is because today I literally launched something. And it's not, I'm not saying this, like the launch is not, this is not the platform for me to kind of say, hey, this is what I've done and share it publicly it's more, this isn't about, astrology. It's not astrology related. But I will probably expand on the details of the launch itself another time. But what matters more right now is what happened internally, like the shifts and the things that took place inside of me after I launched. Because what surprised me wasn't the launch itself. It was literally what happened after the launch. And there's a narrative around launching that makes it look like a climax. So when with the whole process of launching, your body's kind of excited, your mind is like, you're buzzing, you prepare, you literally build, you announce, and then there's this momentum, and that's kind of the energy of launching. At least that's the narrative around it. But building a business as a neurodivergent person does not feel like that. And for me, the lead up to today wasn't just logistics preparation. I realized it was identity preparation. No one told me that. I've launched before, I've had a business before, and I've launched before, and I definitely felt some stuff before, but I guess I wasn't on the same level of consciousness. So I definitely was self-aware in this process today of launching, and I realized that identity, that's something nobody really speaks about. To launch something new, especially something that stretches you beyond your current self-concept, you have to literally confront the version of you that feels safer. You have to confront the identity that says to you that I'm not that type of person. It's funny because I was preparing for this launch for a few weeks, and I was ready, even though I was ready with the idea that confidence comes after doing the thing. Because don't get me wrong, I was not confident in actually feeling like I could run this business successfully. I know that I have to learn along the way. But I definitely built myself up to get to this point of launching today. And then I was like, hold on a minute. After I did it, I was like, am I really that person? So in the weeks leading up to today, I wasn't just drafting outreach. I was negotiating with insecurity, which is, I was shedding. I definitely was doing a lot of work leading up to the launch. I felt to say that the consciousness that I had in becoming the person to launch and to be this business woman in that particular sphere of business, I knew I had to shed a ton load of stuff about me. I knew I had to confront the internal narratives that said to me, who do you think you are to do something like this? And as someone who is sensitive and neurodivergent, anticipation is not light, it's embodied. My brain runs simulations, it rehearses rejection, it scans for social risk, it anticipates perception. So the build-up created adrenaline. Not chaos, not manic, just heightenedness, adrenaline. I felt sharpened and everything felt symbolic. So I definitely worked my way up. And that's what I mean when I say, I guess, that I was ready to launch. I did the work. And sending the first outreach, which basically was symbolic of my launch, wasn't just an action, it was a threshold, is what I realized. Because when you initiate something, a business, a project, you are no longer the person who is thinking, quote unquote, thinking about it. You become the person who did. And that shift destabilizes identity. So when I pressed send, again, which marked the launch of my business, I was doing some outreach and began the cycle of outreach. My body didn't celebrate. I wasn't like, oh yay, I did it. Oh my God, this is the first day of the rest of my life in my business. And no, I scanned myself. My body just monitored itself because that's what I've become accustomed to doing. When I am as a neurodivergent person. I assessed myself, my body assessed itself, and I realized there and then that I felt very exposed. Visibility registered as exposure in that moment. And you know what? Exposure registers as potential threats, especially for neurodivergent nervous systems that are already highly perceptive. So yes, in that moment when I pressed send, there was a spike of adrenaline, of hyper awareness, but then there was complete silence. Complete silence, because I didn't account for the no immediate replies. Not really. I mean, logically, I had that in mind. Don't, Christelle, don't expect any replies instantly. This could take weeks, even months for any return on investment to show itself, you know? But I guess I didn't really embody that reasoning. So there was no immediate replies, there was no applause, no confirmation, just like this stillness. And that, to me, that stillness felt like a void. Now I had to really work towards thinking to myself, this is not failure, I shouldn't be regretful. It's just emptiness. And that is the part that nobody talks about. You know, the anticlimax, the drop after the adrenaline, the moment where your system has nowhere to discharge the energy it built. And if you understand this, you will misinterpret it. You will think, maybe this was wrong. Because that definitely kind of crossed my mind a little bit, but I was able to work through that. But what I recognized mainly is that the void is not failure. It's nervous system recalibration. Your body literally moved from anticipation, which was the lead up to my launch, to then exposure. And now it has to integrate. And integration feels like nothing. Now, I want to say something honestly. I didn't immediately stabilize. I did overanalyze, for sure. My mind started replaying everything, asking myself, did I phrase that correctly? Should I have structured it differently? Should I send something else? Was that too much? Not enough? That spiral began quietly. I even spoke to my future self on ChatGPT. I was like, dude, I need some reassurance. I prayed. Actually, I prayed first. No. I went to ChatGPT first. I should have prayed first, but I don't know. Maybe I wasn't thinking straight that time. But I prayed. But actually, I prayed, but I think I prayed later. So this is what I did. Let me go back to my steps. So I caught it. I stopped myself. My son was saying, I want to go to the park. I was so tired by then, but I was like, you know what? Let's go. The walk-in might help me discharge that energy. So we went to the park, walked in nature. I was present with my son as much as I could be. I allowed myself to feel the ground under my feet instead of living in projection. I prayed. I asked for guidance. I went into gratitude mode. I asked for more guidance. I expressed myself. Nothing was performative. It was all for the purpose of grounding, essentially. And I reminded myself that action has been taken. That no amount of overthinking can accelerate timing. That entrepreneurship is not won in one afternoon. Well, it was morning, but you get my drift. And that regulation is all part of the work. So at that moment, the walking, the breathing, the being present, the talking to my coach on ChatGPT, the prayer was more entrepreneurial than sending the email. Guys, that was an awakening for me. The walking, the breathing, being present. That was a process necessary, because entrepreneurship is not adrenaline. It is stability. And in the stillness, a question surfaced. Okay. The question was, now what? And instead of spiraling, I asked a different question. I said, what would an elite entrepreneur do now? And this is a question that I would never have asked the first time I ran a business in 2018, that I might share another time. And it was not a motivated one or a reactive one. It wasn't a question that was riding on inspiration. It was an elite question. And that question helped me to stabilize. Because the answer was that they stabilize. An elite entrepreneur will stabilize. They will continue the outreach. They would build systems. They tolerate the lag between the action and the outcome. They do not chase another spike to avoid the void. And this is where most people fail. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack talent, but because they cannot tolerate the void. Interesting. By the way, this is a quote from ChatGPT. When I was like, please coach me. What would an elite entrepreneur do? That's what she said. And so the void is where identity consolidates. It's where the new self stabilizes. I learned so much today about myself, guys. And if you are neurodivergent, please know that the void can feel amplified, because many of us rely on stimulation, clarity, and feedback, and entrepreneurship removes immediate feedback. It demands consistency without applause. It demands behavior without reassurance. That is psychologically demanding. Now, I want to shift slightly and speak about entrepreneurial signatures in the natal chart, because we're here, so why not? Let's expand it and let's blend it with astrology. And that's not to gatekeep entrepreneurship, but to contextualize it. Some charts are naturally wired for entrepreneurial risk. For example, strong Mars placements, especially angular Mars, so in the first house, in the fourth house, the 7th or 10th. They correlate with initiative and tolerance for friction. Aries emphasis in the chart brings action. Capricorn brings endurance. Scorpio brings resilience and intensity. Prominent 10th house placements bring career focus. Strong Saturn placements bring discipline and long-term thinking. Uranus dominance can bring innovation and disruption. But here is what people misunderstand. Now, I need to take a sip of my tea whilst it's still warm. But what people tend to misunderstand is that entrepreneurship does not require one specific configuration. It requires self-awareness. If you are water dominant, you may need emotional alignment before action. And that's me, by the way. I need alignment before action. You best believe that prior to my pressing send today, I was meditating every day, journaling every day, praying every day, visualizing every day. That was my version of emotional alignment. Just centering myself. Now, if you are Neptune heavy, you may need vision clarity before structure. If you are Mercury dominant, communication may be your leverage point. If you are Saturn dominant, you may build slower but more sustainably. The mistake is copying someone else's nervous system, especially as a neurodivergent founder, because your processing style matters. Your recovery needs matter. Your exposure threshold matters. Now, also to bear in mind is that we have Saturn and Neptune both in Aries, a whole new era, a whole new way of life. And this is hugely significant because Saturn in Aries demands disciplined self-initiation. It literally says, take responsibility for your own direction. Don't be impulsive, don't be emotional, but be consistent. And Neptune in Aries dissolves fantasy identity. It literally removes the aesthetic version of success. It dissolves the imagined applause. And instead it asks, who are you when there is silence? And together these transits are more embodied courage. Not loud courage, not disciplined, not loud courage, but disciplined courage. And for entrepreneurs, this literally means you initiate, but you sustain. You don't just start, you continue. Saturn says, build something real, whilst Neptune says, stop performing who you think you need to be. Under this particular sky, the entrepreneurs who will succeed are not the most dramatic, by the way. They are the most stable. They regulate after exposure. They follow up after silence. They build systems when motivation drops. They tolerate delayed gratification. This is identity work. And this year will inspire many people to start something, but not everyone will be able to sustain it. Because sustaining requires behavior that matches identity, and identity shifts are uncomfortable. So today I chose stabilization, not reinvention, not panic, although my brain tried to take me there, and not overcorrection. I chose stability. Because if I am building something long term, I cannot be addicted to the adrenaline. I can't. That will mess me up. I have to become someone who can sustain silence. So before we close, my dear, I want to leave you with something to sit with. If you removed urgency, validation, and adrenaline from your business, would you still be willing to build it? And if the answer is yes, are you willing to become the version of yourself who can sustain it? Not the inspired version, not the hyped version, the stable one. You don't need to answer that today. Just notice what comes up and regulate. Hope today's episode was interesting for you. Let me know if there's anything you want me to explore with you, any topics that you're interested in, but definitely today was a profound day, and I appreciate you listening. I'll speak to you next week. You take care.